Today, Matt and I are back with another positional episode, doing a little debate today. We are talking about second base, and do you need to take a big name stud like Ketel Marte, or will somebody like Jackson Holliday, who's being undervalued, have a breakout season? Today, we break down second base on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominic Martino. You can find me on Twitter at DomMartinoFB. Here, as always, with my brother, my co-host, my partner in crime, Matthew Arne, and you can find him on Twitter at Matthew_Arne. If you're watching on YouTube and you haven't already, hit that little bell below. It will subscribe you to the channel and give you a notification every time we drop a new episode. Or if you're on the audio side of things, listening on a platform like Apple or Spotify that allows 5-star ratings and reviews, we would truly appreciate it if you could do that for us. And lastly, most importantly to you guys and the Matt and I this time of year, give us a chance on the Subtext platform. Through Subtext, it's an in-depth personalized experience through text messaging alerts that you're going to get right to your phone, offering so much more than we can in this 30-minute episode. And this time of year on Subtext, you'll be getting our 2025 rankings, sleepers, breakouts, bust, and so much more. And if you are interested in joining us on Subtext, the link is in the bio wherever you're listening, watching, and it's available on any of our social media platforms. So we're ready up to second base, Matt. You know, we're moving along here. Second base is fun, interesting. I think we, similar to, yesterday's episode, we do first base. Go check that out if you haven't already. We have a few differences here. So I think this is going to be a fun, episode. So why don't you hop on in here and kind of break things down a little bit with our rankings here?
Yeah. So first off, the talent drop off is significant after a certain point. I don't like the end of my top 12. There's some interesting names, but it's something that you got to go heavy on. And we've mentioned in the mock draft, and you'll see once I post the rankings here that, this is pretty much Dom and I's personal rankings of our top 12, as of today on February 12th. So, this is our top 12. It pretty much there's a drop off right after like Altuve, Garcia, and maybe Jackson Holliday, but then like the bottom three is kind of where I start not feeling so great about, you're leaving the draft with one of them as my, second base one. For the people on the audio, it goes Mookie, Albies, Marte, Westburg, Semien, Horner, Altuve, Garcia Jr., Holliday, Turang, Cole Keith, and Matt McLain. So, it's just one of those things where I just don't feel wonderful, but it's very top heavy and also very top heavy in ADP. So you're going to have to get a lot of these guys early in order to walk away with it. Otherwise, right after Semien and Altuve, you're pretty much looking at the Horners and things like that much later in the rounds.
Yeah, Matt, I'm with you. And then just to preface, at the top here, Matt and I's rankings are kind of specialized towards head-to-head categories, leagues 5x5 specifically. We always throw our point spin, points league takes and everything as we go on the episode, but they're tailored specifically towards 5x5 head-to-head category leagues. With that being said, I agree. And then even if you're watching on YouTube, Matt and I's rankings are pretty similar as far as the names, at least. I think we only have two names here that we're different on in our top 12s. Matt broke down his top 12. I'll break down mine. First, I have Mookie Betts. We will say this: Mookie Betts is only second base eligible on platforms like Yahoo, not eligible at second on CBS and other leagues. And I think he's scheduled to play short right now, so I'm not sure if he'll get that second base eligibility in other leagues. Just to preface that. So once again, Mookie Betts at 1, where he's eligible. Ketel Marte at 2, Ozzie Albies at 3, Jose Altuve at 4, Jordan Westburg at 5, Nico Horner at 6, Luis Garcia Jr. at 7, Bryce Turang at 8, Jackson Holliday at 9, Matt McLain at 10, Marcus Semien at 11, and Brandon. I always forget if it's Lowe or Lowe. I got Brandon Lowe. That's what I'm going with. Yeah, Brandon Lowe at 12. So, with that being said, what really stands out to me about the position to fall off, I like to live in that kind of, Jordan Westburg, Nico Horner, Luis Garcia range. That's kind of been my sweet spot so far. I have them ranked 5, 6, 7. I think that's a good spot. I think they're all being undervalued. And then even if you have to wait to get somebody like a Jackson Holliday, who Matt and I both have ranked as our 9th second baseman, He's coming off the board as the 16th, second baseman right now, pick 192. So he can win a pick 200. I've been saying I don't see why we, in the small sample size Jackson Holiday had last year, we're fading him now all of a sudden. We're always, as a fantasy baseball community, we're always high on, prospects that are high end, even if they haven't succeeded. I feel like we're getting a little too antsy with it, and that prospect fatigue is hitting hard. I like the value there. But Matt, any thoughts here? As you look at my rankings, you look at your rankings here, any kind of differences that stand out to you? Anybody you want to talk about? Anyone you want to call me out on? Anybody you want to speak about that you have ranked highly that you're just above the community on, or anything like that?
Actually, yeah, I'm wondering how you have Altuve as high as you do.
Okay, so we can get into it. I'll tell you this, Matt. I kind of thought you might come at me for Altuve in this one. So I was thinking about it a little bit before the episode, and I will say this: ADP is even actually higher on Altuve than I am. ADP has him as the second baseman right now, 44th pick overall. He still had a good year last year. I know if you look at some of the underlying metrics, and I'll get to those in a second. He did fall off in some spots, but he was around almost the same in every area. I know he's getting older. He was 34 last year, 35 this year. But as a 34-year-old, Altuve played 153 games for the Astros last year, 628 at bats, 94 runs, 31 doubles, 20 homers, 65 RBIs, 22 steals, and he hit 295. So the only category that you really were, asking for maybe a little bit more is in the RBI category. And I think 65 for a guy who, hits leadoff is not bad. He was great with the 94 runs. You'll take the 20 bombs. You'll definitely take the 22 steals. And you'll take the 295 batting average. He's basically been the similar player the last 2 years. If you go back to 2022, he had 28 home runs. I don't know if we're getting back to that kind of power with Altuve, but hey, 20-ish home runs. I think the runs could still be really good. I think he can still steal 20-ish bags. He could definitely still hit around 300. And I don't necessarily agree with taking him at the 44th pick overall, but I still got to throw a little respect on the guy's name. I have him fourth behind, I think the big three at second base that, we both have there. I think Jose Altuve just deserves the respect because he can still provide above average in 3 out of the 5 major categories. And he's still a chippy in home runs with 20. So I still like Altuve, and I still think he garners a little bit of respect because of the consistency.
I hear you. I just wanted to age, and we talked about it on the bus episode over with Frank Stanfield, but I look at it, it's just everything under the hood kind of screams no, even though he's never really had like pretty, under the hood numbers, like even 23.
Like I was saying, it's kind of just similar. It's not really that too far off than ever before in his career.
Yeah, I mean, 22 is where you saw 22 to 23 is where you see a major drop off because the WOBO batting average and slug drop significantly along with the launch angle.
Well, I don't know if we want to get into all that because as Yankee fans, we could kind of, I'll just do this. If you watch it on YouTube, you might understand what I'm talking about, but we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, well, that was long done. They already got called for that. But, you see all that and then you just start seeing, just the rest. I'm not really, excited to draft him anymore. Let's put it that way. It's just one of those things where it's an excitement, but also just like, okay, these are also the signs of a 34-year-old that if he continues to play with these low under the hood numbers, how successful can he be as his body starts giving up to him? Bat speed's not wonderful, even though it's never really been over the last 2 years, but it's also when you saw the drop off of all the other counting stats, if it keeps going in this direction, it's just going to get worse. So ultimately, I just have to be like, not really out because he's still better option than, Garcia, Holiday, Turang, Cole, Keith, and McLain, especially how I have it in my rankings. But, I can't take him over the Horners, the Semiens, the Westburgs, and even I have questions about Semien. But specifically how you have Westburg over him, I think is kind of crazy for me. But, to each his own.
It's one spot. I can't argue because I do love me some Jordan Westburg, and I really think he's going to have a breakout year this year. That could be something I'll switch, especially if spring training, if Westburg comes out great and looks like he's going to hit a good lineup spot. That one I could give you. I could definitely give you Westburg. I do love him and think he's going to be great. So that one I can't argue one spot with Westburg there.
Yeah, and it is what it is with that. Ultimately, we'll agree to disagree. But coming up next, Dom's going to hit with me with one of his guys. I have no idea who he's going to pick, so this will be fun. And you'll hear that right after this.
Are you looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed full with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to keep you fuller longer. Personally, I love the no shells variety. It's the perfect grab and go snack for busy days. Whether I'm snacking at my desk on a road trip or just need a quick protein boost, they're always my go-to. And I kind of talked about it a little bit yesterday. I'm a big Wonderful Pistachios guy. They are absolutely delicious. So you know what? And if you want to crack open every shell that's satisfying with the crunch, and the in-shell options are a classic favorite as well. Get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more today. Once again, I want to talk to you guys about the Locked On Fantasy Baseball Podcast Diamond Club on the Subtext platform. It's going to be your ultimate fantasy baseball companion as this offseason continues to unfold. You're going to rely on Matt and I for our dynamic content. You're going to get real-time alerts right to your phone, including our 2025 rankings, sleepers, breakouts, bust, and so much more. So stay ahead of your fantasy league by joining the Diamond Club on the Subtext platform where the path to your victories begin. Subscribe now and elevate your fantasy baseball experience to a new level. And if you are interested in joining us on the Subtext platform, you can find the link in our bio wherever you're listening, watching, and it's available on any of our social media platforms. And all right, man, we got to get back into this and we got to break something down here. So if all of your complaints stand true on Mr. Jose Altuve, why do we stand where we stand on Mr. Marcus Semien? Because I think I know Marcus Semien is going to be 34, same age that Altuve was last year. And I'll just throw this out there. Semien didn't have as good of a year as Altuve did last year. And I'll just leave it at that.
So I hear you. And, for me, it's more of, team for me. I feel like even if, Semien doesn't live up to what he's done over the last couple of years, the team I feel is going to take a step forward as a whole. I like the Astros. I mean, I like the Rangers better than I like the Astros. Let's put it that way. It's funny enough we're talking about the two guys living in the same state right now, but there's a lot more upside with that. Yes, the Astros got Jordan and I can't even think who else is on there because Tucker's gone and everybody else is gone on that team. But
They
pretty
got
much him.
Diaz and
There you go.
Who else is there? They picked up Paredes and Christian Walker. So
Yeah, I mean,
Jeremy Pena. I forgot about Jeremy Pena.
Yeah.
A couple guys. It's not as good of a team definitely as it was last year for sure without Tucker. That.
Yeah, it's super underwhelming for where Altuve is going versus Semien, and Semien truthfully has a team around him. He's an on-base machine, whether that's just being on base and getting runs and possibly bringing in some ribs. But I don't think the power is ever something that's really predictable with him, even though he hit 23 and he's like the prototypical, how the hell did you hit 26 to 29 home runs over the last 2 years? And, it is what it is. I don't think much has changed in those regards outside of like the batting average and stuff. But you look at the last couple of years, even under the hood, and nothing's ever really blown you away or knocked your socks off, essentially. He's never been a WOBA guy. He's never really been a crazy X batting average guy or a slug guy. His average exit velocity is completely in the toilet. The only thing that really sticks out for me that's like really I've seen a drop off is the launch angle between 23 and 24. Launch angle really took a dump, and that you saw it go from the 29 home runs to the 23 home runs. But I'm totally okay with last year's stat line at the new draft price, not this year, not last year's draft price. And I hope to see the batting average return. It's not like he struck out a whole bunch and chased like an animal and things like that. No, he didn't really whiff. He didn't really strike out. He didn't really chase. The walks were a little bit more on the lower end side, but ultimately it's not like the batting profile really took a dump. He still managed to keep a fair, walk to strikeout ratio, only striking out 14% of the time. Just wish he would have walked just a hair more at 8.9% of the time. We would have saw like 9 or 10, like 9.5%, and it would have been a lot better batting average ultimately. So Semien, I don't think there's much to be fearful of, except unless you're trying to count on power numbers. That's the only thing that's really never going to be there again.
I'll say this with Semien. I do like him more in points leagues. Obviously, he talked about the walk to strikeout ratio. He's always been a guy that can take a walk very well and doesn't strike out an abnormal amount. So I do like him more in points league. But I will say the batting average is another thing that I think is dropping off. If you look at the underlying stuff for batting average, it's a little bit under his career mark. Even 255 in his career. So if we're losing the home runs, we're losing, he used to be more of a steals guy. I know the underlying stuff for speed looked pretty good last year, but he's getting older. I think, Texas wants to maintain him a little bit more. So I think they're going to have him run a little bit less, which we showed last year. The last 3 years, he's been going down in steals. So if we drop off the 5 steals, 20 home runs, 240, the counting stats still might look okay, but 3 out of the 5 big categories, I think we're going to lack from Semien, and vice versa with Altuve. I think he's going to be definitely above average in 3 out of the 5. That's just why I ranked them the way they do. And I want to do this game real quick with you, Matt. Marcus Semien, 5th second baseman, 60th pick off the board. And I know you have Westburg over him, so we won't even do that one. Westburg is going at pick 107. If Nico Horner's healthy, right, would you rather wait 80 picks and take Nico Horner at pick 140 or take Semien at pick 60?
I'm waiting. I'm going to get Nico Horner.
That's what I'm saying. Then even Luis Garcia goes after. Jackson Holiday goes at pick 192. I just don't think paying the price for Semien is small. If Semien was going in the Nico Horner, Luis Garcia range, I'd probably be taking him over them all day. It's just the price at 60 for me is too rich. It's just a little bit rich for my blood.
And you know what? Like, here's the thing, right? We're not talking about with the pricing when we're talking about rankings. We're talking about finishes and like who's going to finish higher. The upside is on the Semien. And honestly, I should probably move Altuve over Horner, which that'll be switched after the show. But, draft price also is what's going to be my best ROP. Well, guys are going around Altuve and Semien are going to outperform them and run laps around them.
Yeah.
And they should be getting drafted around where the Horners are going because I don't think they're going to have as much of a point. So to your point, yeah, sure. But like, if I'm going to talk about end of season rankings and end of season finish, there's a higher upside that those two finish than everybody else below them. So that it's just, you gotta rank them like that. Do I agree with the price? Absolutely not. That's why both these guys were also on our bus list. So I mean, it is what it is. We're these guys are full out of voids for us. This isn't like, okay, cool, like we're gonna just keep drafting these guys and go off. They're in a tier of their own, but that doesn't mean you want them.
No, I agree. They're just like, I just, for rankings purposes, I think Altuve is more consistent. And like I said, in more, categories in the leagues that we're, doing our rankings for, that's just where I lie. Let's move on though. I brought up Semien. I don't know if there's anyone else here that kind of stands out to you on this list. Like I said, even if it's not somebody on my list or somebody on your list that you just want to highlight, maybe that you're lower on than consensus, you're higher and long. And then we could always, if there's somebody on my list that you want to talk about, we could always do that too.
No, I mean, so ultimately, like, I guess let's take debating out for this last half, right?
Sure.
And let's talk about our favorite targets.
That's going to be fun. I love that. Let's do it.
Like, we kind of like alluded to who we're avoiding, right? And that's Altuve and Semien. Like, they're out the window in terms of draft price. But, and guys, if you haven't watched our mock draft episodes, I'm gonna tell Dom to exclude them. Outside of Nico Horner and Luis Garcia, who do you like to draft, Dom, at the position?
So can I ask you this? Can I go low? Can I dive a little deeper than can I give the people a little insight into the rankings? Can I talk about somebody maybe that I don't have in my top 12? Because I do feel like we've talked about all these guys a decent amount. You know what?
But would you feel comfortable with that person?
There's one. There actually
base?
Is one, and I don't think we've talked about him too much. Let's talk about let's talk about Brandon Lowe.
Okay.
With him, I think that we're forgetting that Tampa is not playing in their home stadium. They're playing in, I forget exactly where their stadium is, but Tampa was notoriously horrible for hitting. It's going to be a more hitter friendly environment. And the thing is he just got to really stay on the field because we know who he is when he's out there, right? If Mr. Brandon could get in 135 games, I think it's 30 home runs, good RBI numbers. The runs could be okay because he's actually, a little bit quicker on his feet than we think. Batting average is never going to be good. I would expect somewhere between 240 and 250. But the thing is, you don't really have to pay the crazy price for him right now. It's the 20th second baseman off the board, pick 230. He has first base eligibility on Yahoo as well. I'm not sure if he has it everywhere else. So the thing is that you don't have to necessarily pay the price of the 12th second baseman. But like as Matt says, it's where do I really think he's going to finish? And I think if he can stay healthy, he's going to be 30 this year, so he's not too old. He's played over 100 games the last 2 years. They have more versatility on that team now with Christopher Morel coming over, and I know they have a lot of young bloods on that team that are ready and hungry to play. So I'm sure he'll get time at DH. So the thing is if he plays a lot of his time at DH, which hopefully happens there in Tampa, and I kind of could see it happening, he has first, he has second, he has 30 home run, 100 RBI upside. He's got a little bit of speed. He could chip in, 5 to 8 steals, and 240 to 250 isn't killing you. And for that price, I may not be super happy walking away with him as my starting second baseman, but if you're in a 12 to 15 man league that's somewhat deep, it's not the worst thing in the world. And I also think he's being slept on as like a second utility or a bench bat or that kind of Swiss Army knife off your bench if you play on Yahoo, gives you first and second eligibility. I do like him a lot this year.
All right, now I'll give a rebuttal on the other side of this. And all right, so
real quick, Matt, for verification purposes on Baseball Reference, it's Brandon Lowe. It's Brandon Lowe. Just so we always get confused because I know they have Josh Lowe. They had another Lowe with all the same last name spelling. So with Brandon, I was just telling the people how much I love you. So with all due respect, it's Brandon Lowe. We got you, buddy. So,
yeah, Brandon Lowe with the pinky up like SpongeBob saying it fancy.
Yes, Mr. Fancy.
Yeah, twinkle toes over here. But all right, Brandon Lowe. I almost said Lowe again. Brandon Lowe is interesting. The thing is his health. My guy, even though he's played more games than he has in his whole career, still isn't saying much. But when he's healthy, he's healthy. And he's awesome. He's not your prototypical second baseman either. He's more of like a first or outfielder. He just has power. He doesn't really steal bags. Hits 248, and he's just going to get the job done when he's out there. The problem is when you have him out there, it's really rough. You can't really count on him. He can go down any minute. It's bad. It's like, okay, when is the Titanic going to split in half and sink? When is Brandon Lowe going down? It's just the same thing. So, ultimately, you just got to look at it. If you're going to do him, you might as well, go ahead and get a handcuff at the position, somebody a little bit later.
That's well said. You have to.
And he's like, I don't use handcuff too often not even a handcuff, just get some depth. Somebody that you can back him up because it's just going to be ugly. But anyway, let's move on. I'm going to talk about a guy that we actually haven't talked about a lot at all, actually, and it's returning from injury and one of my favorite players going into last year, and that's Matt McLain of the Cincinnati. I was going to say Bengals, but Reds. I love this kid, honestly. Matt McLain, the crawl and do the events himself on Christmas Day is interesting this year. I don't know what the finish is going to look like. I like him in my top 12 because I feel comfortable with the upside and feel like it's obtainable, but I also feel that he could be somewhat stable. And that's why we have him ranked in our top 12, right? So like the last time he played a full season in the bigs was in 23, and my guy had 365 at bats, 65 runs, 23 doubles, 4 triples, 16 bombs, 50 ribs, 14 stolen bases, and batted 290. And you look at the kid's like profile and over the last couple of years, and what could we expect from the kid? Well, right before he got called up in 23, he had 144 at bats and had 12 home runs and 12 stolen bases and batted 340. He's been kind of like ups and downs, but also through the promotion, he's kind of struggled and then kind of figured it out and bounced back. And I feel like, we may not see the 290, more like 270. I think the power is legit, and I think the speed is legit. So he could be very interesting as a player, and especially in Great American Hitter Park with that team around him. He could be somebody that, could be quite interesting and intriguing to take later in drafts and not have to pay the price, but it is risky as hell. There is a possibility where, we have sophomore slump because this is technically would be his sophomore year. He's played a little bit more than a half a season, and we could see a little bit more of a drop off. But at the same time, if we see the other side of that coin, it's going to be super exciting. This is kind of like a swing for the fences. If this is the only position that you're kind of out on, and you have this and catcher to worry about, yeah, you're all right shape, and you can take the upside of Matt McLain.
I don't. I have a prediction for Matt McLain. I don't know if it's bold. Matt, maybe you and the people can tell me.
Okay.
I see McLain 20 bombs, 30 steals, 258 batting average. I don't know why I'm so specific. That's just what my brain's telling me right now. 90 RBIs and about 75 runs. That's what I'm looking at here for McLain. I think, like you said, I think the speed's super legit. He was in the 90th percentile according to sprint speed on Baseball Savant. Power is okay. It's not. Some things are good when the power with underlying stuff. Some stuff not so great, but it's going to play in Great American Small Park, in Cincinnati there. So I think 20 home runs is easy. Maybe even get a little bit on top of that. Maybe it winds up being like 23. He's projected to hit third in that lineup behind Ellie De La Cruz. It can't be in a better spot. Somebody that's always going to be on second base, at least if not third most of the time, to drive in those RBIs. So that's why I said at least 90 RBIs. I think Matt McLain's being undervalued right now. Oh, not undervalued, because he's actually coming off the board as the seventh second baseman, pick 112. He's not being undervalued as a second baseman. Pick 112, I think, is a sweet spot for him. He also has shortstop eligibility on Yahoo specifically, so I like that for him. Matt McLain is somebody that I'm digging on as well, Matt. The ADP is the seventh second baseman is a little bit rich for me. I have Matt 10. But he's not a bad pick this year. Just the thing is, I don't expect the 290 batting average again. I wouldn't go in there expecting it to be that high. Matt said 275. I say around 260. Maybe it's somewhere in the middle of that. But McLain's going to be pretty good. I do like him.
What's funny? Your prediction is 4% better batting average than Bobby Witt Jr.'s rookie season, full season.
There you go. I mean, that's insane. McLain, and how old is he too? I don't think he's super old. Yeah, he's 25. That's what I was gonna say. I didn't want to throw it out there, but yeah, 25 years old for Matt McLain. So he's somebody that's young, could be still improving, has time to return from an injury like he had. I think he's solid. I love it. I hope everyone gets that reference. So let's jump back in here. Matt, you know what? You did somebody that we haven't talked about too much that's in the top here. I'll do another guy. Let's talk a little bit about Bryce Turang. I have Bryce Turang at 8. Matt has him at 10. We're kind of right in the same spot there with I was going to say McLean. Oh, my God. With Turang. Turang is at 8 in ADP, pick 131. He's solid, mainly a speed specialist. He started off last year really, really hot. The second half, he did slow down a bunch. So he's somebody that makes me like a smidge nervous. So I'm not really targeting him unless I'm looking, at that time, what did I say, around pick 130 in that range. And I'm like, damn, I don't have a second baseman, and I really am lacking in steals. I went with a lot of power. At that point, maybe go in there and grab Turang. Another guy that's 25, 94th percentile of sprint speed. So like I said, the speed's super legit. The stuff for batting average, actually, 261 for the underlying stuff. He finished last year at 254. So I think there is a world where, he could be, kind of like the newer version of Jose Altuve, where the runs are going to be really good. The steals are going to be really good. He doesn't have the power that Altuve did. But remember, Altuve only tapped into that power towards the later end of his career. And you know what? The batting average could be plus. So, another guy, he stole 50 bags last year. So, you know what? He's somebody that, we might need to dig deeper into Turang. Maybe he is a little bit better than we think he is, than I think he is, because you know what? That 50 speed, steal speed. And then it could be even more because, like I said, 94th percentile when you're talking about one of the fastest guys in the game with Turang. There's a lot of upside here. There definitely is a lot of upside here. Like I said, I have him ranked 8th. ADP is 8th. Maybe he's a little better than like a Luis Garcia or Nico Horner, or at least on par with those kind of guys. So I like Turang. I really do like him.
I'll be honest. Like, it's not my favorite ranking. He's probably going to fall as we keep going. 10 is kind of.
Damn, and I thought I was starting to like him a little bit more. We're on the opposite sides of the fence. I'm actually excited to hear this a little bit.
Essentially, like, okay, he doesn't dominate in home runs. He doesn't dominate in runs. He doesn't dominate in ribbies. He hits 254. Like, he's really just a stolen base guy. He's, Nico Horner without the runs, upside, and the batting average. That's literally what Turang is. And for me, the price is a little too rich. And I have him there because the other two below him essentially don't have the um floor, right? I know I'm getting 40 to 50 home stolen bases. I know I'm going to get a guy that's going to bat 250. I know I'm going to get a guy that at least is going to get 60 to 70 runs and somewhat ribs. The other two, the upside is unreal, but it's not safe. At least I can get a dominant force in stolen bases. I just don't feel great about walking away with him as my second baseman. And quite honestly, I will just wait around to go and get the other two. Even though I have questions about Cole Keith, and it's more of a based off of talent than it is talent available versus him actually being the 11th, what do you call it, second baseman. And McLain is higher. I have a feeling he's going to rise in the rankings after this episode as well. So it's just really tough for me to draft Turang. It's just the floor is the best available. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, Matt, I'm going to chime in real quick, too, as we wrap things up here. I'm going to probably put Matt McLain over Turang, too, because, I'm looking at roster resource of where he's going to hit in the lineup. He's projected to hit 7th. And the lineup, look at the top of the lineup. It's Churio, Yelich, and William Contreras. You're not breaking that top 3 unless somebody gets hurt. So, yeah, I think I might move Turang around or down a little bit, too. But he does have good upside in batting average if you look at the underlying stuff. And the steal speed is obviously elite. So I think he'll be at least good in those two categories. But with that being said, guys, that's going to be all for today. Unless, Matt, you got anything?
No, I'm good. Get us out of here.
Yeah, so that's going to be all for today. Please make sure you like, subscribe, comment, rate, and review. And thank you to our everydayers and new listeners for making Locked On Fantasy Baseball your first listen each and every day. And after you make us your first listen, go check out our boy Sully over at Locked On MLB and make him your second listen. And with that being said, guys, until next time.
Peace.
Bye.